Hey, you inspiring people. Super proud to be part of this next podcast with Miss Tammy Griego, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and Mr. Ran Weathers, mixed martial arts warrior. These guys are truly people pursuing greatness. Ran is also working on his black belt with Tammy at BJJ, New Mexico, where we were on location with this podcast. We're joined for the first time and for many more to come by fellow APOB founder and host Emilio S. We call him Fox, who's also one of Tammy's students. Listen to a true warrior tell her journey to mastering her craft, the levels she has yet to and will reach, and the amazing things she's doing with her school and community in Las Lunas, New Mexico. Make sure to check out Tammy and her newly moved and remodeled school at facebook.com/New Mexico BJJ. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast at perchorbirds.com, and please leave us a review on iTunes. It would mean a lot to us. And if you want to hear any more podcasts like this and many more to come, you can help out and get in on some exclusive content, some Q&A sessions, and probably some merch, especially for our first subscribers at patreon.com/APOB media. And you can find out more about us there as well. All right, let's hear a professional choke artist tell it like it is.
So for the listeners out there, we have Tammy Griego and Mr. Ran Weathers on the podcast. Feels good to finally get this done. It's been in the work for a little bit, but hey, that's just life, the way it rolls.
I think you guys were the first one we talked about, honestly. And
yeah.
From there, we kind of just had other ones that happened. And so we were just like, cool, but when are we getting
When is this actually going to come?
Yeah.
I have like 4 different calendars and they all don't sync up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. But hey, it's getting done.
Well, I think that was what helped with us getting this done was doing the Gmail calendar, because you can send the invites, and then it's on your calendar automatically. So it helped us get this all together. It was nice. Finally done.
Yeah, I got the reminder. I'm like, oh crap, I got to get some clothes up.
Yeah,
That's
really, perfect. That's perfect. So I wanted to start off with Professor. So I kind of read on some of the stuff when I was looking into the school and kind of Googled you and the school and whatnot. Kind of said you started off from humble beginnings in construction and you kind of rolled into a class one day. So if you would just kind of expand on that and just tell us how you kind of got started in jiu-jitsu.
How did I get started on jiu-jitsu? So, very accurate. That was my profession. I worked telecommunication, mainly new construction, commercial construction, and quite honestly, I was at a point in my life where I was very dissatisfied. I was very successful by the majority of society standards, making lots of money and, had a home, had some friends, had the ability to go party on a weekend. If I wanted to go somewhere, I could go do it, whatever, But I was dissatisfied in my life. I was looking for something and I didn't know what. I was very, very unhealthy. I think I was 285 when I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's 285 pounds.
Wow.
For those who don't, for those who don't understand, like I'm 5 foot nothing, weighing 285 pounds,
Wow.
and on a personal level, I didn't really have a lot of fulfillment. It was work and home and sleep and work and home and party and work and you work on construction crews and you go out and you work all day with the guys and then you go out to dinner and you drink all night and then you go back and do it all over again, day after day, month after month, and that was the extent of my life. So I'd started doing some continuing education courses, kind of looking for something that sparked interest in me. And I had a friend that talked about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu once, and I watched a video and it put me to sleep. I'm like, yeah, it looks interesting, but I start watching the instructional DVDs from the 1980s, and I'm like, oh my gosh. it was really, really, it was a good snooze fest. But
and how long ago would you say this is?
That probably was, I'd have to say, a good 5 years before I even came across jiu-jitsu. It was just something that was back in the past. Like, I remember being a junior or being in junior high. My grandmother let me do one sport, and I tried out for basketball. I couldn't run. Even then, I was probably 180, you know.
And you weren't blessed with height.
Yeah, for sure. So I didn't make the basketball team, and she let me try again. I tried out for wrestling, and what was really awesome was I was working for Gracie Baja in Albuquerque, and I ran across my old wrestling coach, and he was a brand new wrestling coach. It was his first season, you know, straight out of high school or whatever, or college, and he was the wrestling coach for the middle school, and we started talking, and he said, quite honestly, I was trying to make all the girls quit. He didn't want any girls on his wrestling team.
Huh.
And I remember just being miserable, but I always gave it the best I could, you know, and I was getting my butt whooped all season long, you know, and I was in the like super heavyweight division or whatever, because the division I was in and the one above that, I remember Marcus and Xavier, these kids were just wrestlers from beginning, and they were solid wrestlers. So every time we tried I guess you have to like duel your teammates to get the spot to go do the tournament or whatever.
Right. Like a tryout.
They'd beat me up, you know, so the only spot that was available was the open weight. So there was this one kid I always had to fight, and he was like 250 pounds, and I'm like, he was at least 200 pounds, and this is middle school, you know, and it's like, whatever. I enjoyed the camaraderie of it, and it was something that I enjoyed, even though it was a lot of hard work. But that was really fulfilling to get to hear my coach say that, you know. I was trying to get all the girls to quit, and you were the only one. I couldn't break you, you know. I was like, yeah.
That has to feel good.
So I already kind of had that desire to wrestle, you know.
And would you say work ethic, being that they push you harder than, I guess, the boys, right? Because the idea was to stress you out.
Right. Well, I mean, that made the entire team strong, because it never felt like picked on.
Right.
I just thought, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
So I think by default, he made everybody on the team stronger, because all the weak ones did, you know, quit or leave or whatever. I remember being, you know, the first beginning of the season, we were strong because we had a full roster. But as the season continued, it just kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. We had a great team. It's just by the end of the season, we didn't have very many people left.
Yeah.
So I think it made everybody stronger. I don't think, like I said, I never felt singled out.
Yeah.
You know, I never had that chip on my shoulder. I'm a girl and he's picking on me or anything like that. I just thought that's what that was. And I guess not. But so I already kind of enjoyed that environment. So when my friend mentioned it to me 5-6 years before I even found jiu-jitsu, it kind of caught my interest, you know. And I was straight out of high school going to be a paramedic. Like, I did my EMT training even while in high school, and ended up going to UNM and taking my intermediate there. And then I just ended up not doing the paramedics because, well, I'm this farm kid from some no-name town with nobody, and my grandmother never let me out. I never even talked on the phone. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I had a very secluded life, and now I'm living in Albuquerque all by myself. Woo! So that turned into a disaster. I got in trouble with my grades, and I tried to fix it, but it was so horrible from the first semester that I couldn't repair, so I had to take some time off.
You're sowing them wild oats.
Yeah. So ended up not pursuing the EMT profession, and I found myself with nothing to do. But while I was doing the EMT training, there were a couple of guys there that, like, they'd pull out the hospital mats, mm-hmm. and they were practicing drills. I didn't really comprehend what was going on. I gave them like very little of my attention, but in the back of my mind, when I was 17 years old, here are these two paramedics. They're drilling jiu-jitsu. I'm 17, so that's like 1997 or something like that. So that's when I first heard about Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Didn't really know about it much. And then a few years later, my friend kind of showed me a video, and he was talking about he'd go up to Santa Fe because Alberto Crane was the first school up there in New Mexico. He went to Brazil and trained with these guys, kind of thing, and brought it here. And so he had been going in there a little bit, but it was just too much, you know, the life back and forth to Santa Fe and living here and having his daughter here and all of this 9-to-5 stuff. So he didn't really keep up with it, but he was talking to me about it. And one day I'm driving to a job site, you know, I'm at that point in my life where I'm already experimenting with different activities, trying to find some kind of fulfillment. I remember not wanting to be the 9-to-5er. I was working these construction jobs, feeling unappreciated at my job.
Or unfulfilled, like you said.
Right.
I would appreciate that. Yeah, right.
And I already had the mindset. I was looking for something more in my personal life, but in my professional life as well. So driving by a job site, drive by the school, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna check this out. It was like a Saturday, and I'm on my way to work on a Saturday, you know.
Right.
And I pop in and I'm sitting in the gallery just watching live training. I just walked in, you know, and they're all just wrestling. They're all just fighting. I'm just watching, you know, and it caught me. Like, I don't know, like, I recognize this. This is familiar. It's like wrestling. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing wild or extreme. We talk about the submission and getting people to give up and choking people out and all of this.
It's like controlled explosions.
Yeah.
That's what I always think about. It's like controlled explosions. Like you guys are like not really doing a lot of movement, and then out of the blue, somebody's like, and then boom, it's over. There's a thunder at the end and everything. It's happening, right?
It's happening, the thunder at the end. It's funny. I like that perspective. So, yeah, I mean, I got to walk in and it felt familiar. So I was there. And the person that came up to me at the academy was very inviting, you know, had a great smile on his face. And he's like, well, we can do something now. I'm like, I can't. I got to get going. And then he scheduled me to come back. And quite honestly, I wasn't going to come back. You know, I don't even know what it is. You know, we made an appointment. I didn't have the follow through or something. It's like in that moment, it caught me, but it didn't catch me enough to bring me back to commit to come back. You know, I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't know. And he puts me on the schedule. I'm like, sure, okay. Because he wasn't going to let me go without putting me on the schedule. That's what it felt like.
Cool. Yeah, he wanted you to commit a little bit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So then that's how I wandered into the gym, you know. I was 26, I want to say at the time. So 2006 is when I started.
So then from there, you started to actually go within that like year, or when did you start to go habitually all the time training, turn that over?
I went to my intro lesson, quite honestly, wasn't going to go. And then the lady called me, and the lady, Sarah Boyd, you know, she was working at the gym at the time. She was one of the practitioners that was helping at the academy. And it was a private, you know, it was a private intro. I don't know if he felt that little bit of hesitation or if that's just the way they did things.
Yeah.
But she called me to confirm the appointment. I'm like, oh, crap. Okay, I guess. Yeah, I'll be there. And so I went in and I did the private with her, and it was really enjoyable. I had a good time, you know, and I was like, I loved it. Where do I sign? No, I wasn't where do I sign. I was like, how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah, I think that has to be the thought, especially when you have your 9-to-5 and you're like, okay, this is going to take away from my personal time, but this is also going to take away from my wallet. And where is that at?
Yeah. At that time, like, I was actually trying to save to start a business. I didn't know what I was going to do. My fallback was just to start my own telecommunications company because that was my profession, you know, and I felt that I was very good at what I did. I felt like I wasn't appreciated by my employers, and I can go and freelance on my own and make way more than what you pay me for half the hours that I'm working.
Yeah.
So at that time I was kind of saving money for that, and so I was hesitant about going out and doing things and spending too much money on stuff just because of those goals.
Yeah.
You know, you have to decide what.
Well, and I'm sure the ROI, like you know what I mean, the return on investment of yourself, it's not always quite as clear, especially with something that's this life involving. Like it's your whole life. This guy. He's
taking over.
He's taking over, exactly. Like, I loved it from day one. Like, I enjoyed what she showed me, and then she gave me the plans, and I'm like, okay, well, what if I paid it all? How can I make this as cheap as possible? And she talks to me about the paid in full option. Okay, well, I'll pay for 6 months in advance. I'll pay it all off, and I'll get that discount. I know that none of my upgrades ever expired.
Really?
That's how it got a hold of me. Like, I enjoyed the intro, so I paid for the 6 months to start to get the discount. But the way it was back then, it was like you paid for 2 classes. Mm-hmm. And then if you wanted to upgrade, you paid for 3 classes. And then the next upgrade, I think, was like unlimited. Yes, per week.
Per week, okay.
And then the next upgrade was like unlimited membership or something like that. That's how it worked. Versus here, it's just you pay a flat fee and you come as much as you want.
Okay.
And
Well, we got to. Did you? Yeah, I don't think you've actually said where this is. What is the school?
Oh, okay. Well, we're at my school now. Let's fast forward to life.
We're getting there, but we started talking about here. I want to make sure that people know that there is a here. You know? So, Tammy, you own a school. What is the school called?
New Mexico Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Okay, where are we at? Where are we?
We're in Bosque Farms right now. We're located at 1080 Bosque Farms Boulevard. We are currently in the works to open up shop in Las Lunas.
Nice.
So that's coming up quick, man. Quicker than, I mean, I want it to be here now, but there's so much involved in the process that, because my team is Gracie Baja, you know, and when I moved out here to do this, it was life's responsibilities, and financially I didn't have what I needed to do to make this a Gracie Baja. And so now we want to make the new school Gracie Baja. And so having to deal with a new partnership, a new landlord, a new building, a new franchise, and still not really having the financial resources. I believe in my abilities, and I believe in my team, and I have the life experience of this business that's pushing me to have the faith in the upcoming project.
Absolutely. And if people wanted to see more about how to get into the school to put more people into the classes, because honestly, I didn't know that it was here until he pointed out that it was here. I didn't even know this. And, you know, I thought it was an old sign. Yeah. Because I drove by and I was like, has that been there forever? You know, because I didn't know. But then once he brought me in here, I was like, damn, this is a full-on gym. I mean, you guys train kickboxing as well besides the jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So then when you guys go over there, you're going to expand all parts of the school?
Yes.
Okay.
Initially, like, life got really overwhelming, family responsibilities and stuff. And so I made the move to come down here. And the thought was, this is my college. This is my
academy.
Yes.
Is that what you guys call it?
It's academy.
I kept saying dojo, but that's completely incorrect. Right? I said dojo. Okay, I want to make sure.
It's fun. I mean, that's what it is. But I didn't go to business school. I have the knowledge to do all of that, but I'm already 37 now. You know, when this project started, I was 32. I'd already been through, you know, the EMS training. I've been through the communications training. I've already, like, done other professions, other careers, you know. I'm like, well, yes, I understand the value of college, but I think I'm at this point where I can experiment. I'm not going to invest too much money in it. I'm not going to make a big buzz about it. The way I looked at it, I didn't want to burn leads, was what I was telling myself. Yeah. I don't want to make an impression on too many people that they, you know, decide not to stick around, and then now that's what they think of this organization, when quite frankly, I just want a place where I can come and train. I want to come and still get jiu-jitsu. I may not financially be able to get back up to Albuquerque on a regular basis, and I was at that point where I was training at almost every single class, you know, doing 2-a-days every day. And
so not to go, I'm not trying to jump too far around the timeline, but so essentially you've done that since you were 26, right? You said since that's when you started to like really kick this in 2-a-days.
Mm-hmm. So it was a progression. Started, and 6 months in, before 6 months was over, I remember somebody talking to me about tournaments, and they're all talking about it, and it sounds so cool, I'd like to try that maybe. And then I was a little chicken because they were going to do like a team trip, and I convinced my pregnant cousin to drive with me to Denver to go do a tournament up there all by myself.
That's where the sales pitch comes.
Man, that's
convinced the pregnant woman to go to a jiu-jitsu.
She was ready to pop, man, and we're getting ready to drive to Denver and then drive back. And
was it cold? Was it winter?
It wasn't winter. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that extreme. But she's a Denver's fan, you know, so I convinced her we'll go check out Denver's Broncos and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the stadium was closed.
Bummer.
It still turned into that's a whole other story. It turned into a good trip, but I came back and went. And I was like, well, I know I need to do more work. So then I started talking to them about upgrading to at least the next level to get more training in, because I was only allowed to train 2 classes a week at that point. And so then again, I was already thinking, well, I'm really enjoying this. What's the paid in full? How can we make this as cheap as possible? Because it is an investment. Like, my mindset was a little bit skewed, but not really. I understand the idea of learning a skill set. You know, and that's what I approached it as to begin with. I'm learning a skill set. I'm learning something that's going to be able to stay with me for a while. So mentally, that's how I justified investing the amount of money that I did so much off the bat. You know, within the first year, I'd already dropped like $4,000, $5,000 on my training.
Yeah.
Just the way it all played out, because, well, first it's, okay, let's do this. Then it's like, oh, okay, well, I want to be good at this. So let's hit the next level. And then I went to the team trip to Las Vegas to compete in the tournament there. And then the guys are all making jokes, you know, like, hey, you're going to have to fight that girl. And I'm like, still a white belt, this monster woman, you know, 6'2", 220. I'm still quite overweight, you know, not 285 anymore. Thank God, you know, jiu-jitsu was really starting to work there on the health side. But I was still pretty overweight, but I'm 5'0", and here's this, like, she looked like a bodybuilder, man. Super intimidating. I'm sure it's not a realistic explanation of her, you know, but
it felt like it.
Yeah, it's my first tournament. And I was like, oh, no way. And she was like a purple belt, you know, which is middle of the road as far as belts go. And I'm barely at the beginning of the road, and I'm like, that's not gonna happen. Shut up, you guys are just messing with me. And then the day of the tournament, I hear my name announced over the intercom. Will you come to the table? And I go over there, and sure enough, they're like, hey, so we're just gonna group all of you ladies together because we don't have a lot of competitors today. So if you guys are cool with it, we can give you your money back, or we can just have you guys all fight. Well, shit. Well, yeah, man, I went to go compete, you know, so I sucked it up. And then... So
at that point, there's no weight class involved? Like, they're not dividing you guys. They're just saying...
No weight or skill. Wow. You know, so it was just a free-for-all. It's like the old school UFC stuff, you know, where it's best man standing kind of thing.
Right.
And so I went and I had to fight that woman, sure enough. and I did okay. I almost submitted her, but she was extremely strong. And so when I went into a move, she was able to, like, literally just power out of it, you know, beast mode out of it. And I didn't have
smash.
And I didn't have the skill set to transition to something else or whatever, you know, but I did all right. I felt like I could actually do something. Like, I left that entire losing experience extremely positive. Like,
that's huge that you said that just now. I like how you said that. I left that losing experience extremely positive. That's huge, man. That's huge.
That really is.
That speaks volumes, because then you came back, you got addicted, right?
Yeah, it's like, man, I did fairly well against somebody that certainly outweighed me, certainly was outstrengthening me, certainly outskilled me, and I did well enough, you know? I think that with enough time and enough effort, I can do good at this. I could be great at this, you know? And something in me, you know, like I said, I was looking for something on the professional level too, and I kind of understood, you know, well, this is enjoyable to me. I really like this.
Yeah.
What if I could do this full time, you know? And so from the early stages, you know, I had enough experiences that fortified the belief that I could do good at it, that I could be good at it. And I enjoyed it enough. The environment that I was in was enjoyable to the extent that I could see myself doing it forever. So from a very early on, I kind of just approached all of my choices as, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
So you think that jiu-jitsu is key in making you feel that way about life, as well as like that, the way that you came at jiu-jitsu? Because it seems like that was like a change, because you have to have your health in line, so that changes that. You got to have your lifestyle, because you're going 3 times, twice a day. How many times a week would you say?
At that point, it was 3 times a day, or 3 times a week, not 3 times a day. once.
Yeah.
Go home to eat. I'll come back.
There were certain. There's ebbs and flows in my jiu-jitsu path. Right?
Sure, you got to go with life.
Sometimes I have to pay bills, so I have to have a real job, and sometimes the academy's paying the bills, and sometimes, you know, it's just the way things... So it was an ebb and flow, but for the most part, I was training, you know, like Matt's card. Matt's here every day, you know, just about, and that's what I always strive to do. If I had to work out of town, I'd pack my uniform, and I'd come straight from wherever job site and get dropped off at the academy so I could get my training session in before even going home, even after working a full day of construction.
That's huge.
But yes, that was exactly it. I saw that it could touch all of these aspects of my life. You know, I could stay healthy. I could have those friendships that were more meaningful than just going out to the bar and drinking every night. or
the friends you choke out, you're better.
Yeah, exactly. Big bear hug.
It's a different environment, you know. And then on the professional level, I could see, man, if I'm good at this, I have no problem.
So when you've got this new outlook on life, you have this new skill that you want to get down. So what was the next step? And then you're doing competitions and you're getting promoted. I'm assuming because you're going and you're training. So what was the next step? What was like the next milestone into where this is where world champion Tammy's going?
How did she become world champion Tammy?
Right.
Because that is an endeavor in and of itself. So I do that tournament, I come back, I'm excited about it. Okay, now I'm fully hooked. Now I'm starting to see, okay, maybe this can be a profession for me as well. Maybe I don't have to work for the man. Maybe I can figure something out.
You gotta work for the man. Yeah. Like all of our hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
And so I went in, I negotiated with Alberto, he's like, okay, well, I can get you this deal or whatever, and I made payments on it because I was like, well, I don't have all of that now, but, you give me a few months and I can get that all paid up and paid for all of my jiu-jitsu right then and there, It was coming to an end while it was later on once Alberto had already sold the school, but I had already taken steps to teach for the school. Yeah. So I'd already been teaching for the school. So what happened was doing jiu-jitsu. Keep in mind the past is foggy because of all of the experiences that this has opened up to me. Like, sure. I went on one trip and I came back and I feel like I lived 2 lifetimes just in that one journey,
right.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I, at some point, start doing really well in tournaments. I'm addicted to the tournaments. I like won something. I'm like, ooh, maybe, that desire to be the next level up, the next level up, the next level up. So there was some tournament and I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, Worlds came first. So I ended up going to a Worlds tournament.
What's that? What's a Worlds?
So IBJJF Worlds is like one of the larger tournaments. There's different promoters that put on tournaments. Okay. I've spoken to you about my first tournament second tournament where they just lumped us all together because there wasn't enough. That's a local promotion for you usually. Well, IBJJF is such a huge organization. It's been in business for so long that they actually attract numbers, large numbers. Sure. So you're going to get actual divisions for your actual weight level, your actual skill level. It's going to be a fairer fight, it feels like. And so they have different levels of tournaments like regionals and stuff like that or whatever. And then you have the World Championships. They have it every year. And that's where everybody goes. So these are like the best names in jiu-jitsu showing up to fight. And I got to go with the team again. So that team environment, we had just gotten the Brazilians. Not that we have just gotten the Brazilians, but I think like Tusa had just recently come and he was training with us and I can't remember if Rafael or those guys were here yet or not. I don't think so. I think it was Tusa and we went to that Worlds and I remember being so excited and I wanted we had like New Mexico had one of the largest rosters for our team.
Really?
Yes. Huh. So you have Gracie Baja, who's our team, and they're everywhere. They're in Brazil, they're in the US, they're everywhere. Right? So everybody signs up and then you sign up under your team, Gracie Baja, New Mexico and whatever. And then what Gracie Baja does, the larger teams do, is they make a full roster.
Sure.
Right? For the team trophy or whatever. And so that was the conversation that happened is New Mexico had one of the largest teams show up to these tournaments. Huh. So a lot of us are getting put on the A squad, you might say.
Right.
So it made
varsity team.
So it makes it feel so much more important, and my first Worlds tournament, I'm seeing all these big names that I don't even know are big names. My teammates are pointing them out and they're like, ooh, watch this guy. He's amazing, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, holy crap, look at what he just did.
So what's the potential for this type of tournament? What do you get? So you get, if you place it all, where do you go from there? Is that like competing to go to another worlds or international? No. So this is that spot. This is one of the ones you worked for to get to this spot.
Yes, this is what the jiu-jitsu fighters, this is one of the tournaments that they work for. Obviously, there's other promotions. Earlier, we were talking about the ADCC promotion. Okay. It's a different promoter, has a different set of rules, has different timeline, and it's prestigious as well because of the way they run their organization and because it's been in business for so long. So different promotions are different businesses that have had different levels of success. Okay. So
if your school, who do you guys go through now? Gracie Baja?
So as far as tournaments or when we register?
If you register. So if you guys went now, who would you come in under?
It would be anybody. Like, I personally still register under Gracie Baja because that is my team. I am a Gracie Baja black belt. Okay. My team, I leave registering for tournaments open to them. Everybody comes to me and says, oh, but I don't want to compete. I don't want, because I think they see all the medals and they see who I am. And it's like, no, man, it's just so much more than that. That's just what I really enjoy to do. That spoke to my ego. That really made me feel like somebody. Like, I could do something.
It filled that void that you were looking for. Yeah, definitely.
But I leave it open to them. So they can register under whatever they want. Sometimes depending on the tournament, it's questioned or it's not. I don't really think it's ever questioned.
So do you guys want to talk about the rules for that so that you guys can, because I have no idea. I know that we talked, but do you want to put down?
I have no idea what the rules are. I'm still a white belt in this, so.
So what you're saying is you're not going to this tournament that's coming up?
Not anytime soon. But there's a goal there. Definitely.
I did a judo tournament, didn't know what the rules were. Like, they were having a judo tournament at the jiu-jitsu tournament, and I'm like, can I do that too? Because at that point, I was already, some of the promoters were already recognizing me, and they enjoyed having me around. And I was like, it was always about trying to figure out a way to make things work. There were some times that I didn't have money to do these things. So I'd be messaging, hey, can I work for you? How can I make this happen? I want to go. And it was always wheeling and dealing to try and make it happen. I went to a tournament in New Jersey. I'd never been out that way. And I stayed with some stranger who was a friend of a friend. Just to make it happen. I'm selling videos of a DVD I made of that world's trip, that first world's trip. I recorded all my teammates. I made a DVD of it. I edited it. I'd never done anything like that before. I just invested in a nice fancy computer. I'd never had anything nice like that before. So when we were playing with it, I enjoyed playing with it. I put a DVD together, got permission to sell it at the academy.
Supported yourself through.
And all those sales were what paid for my airline ticket to get to New Jersey.
That's awesome. That's doing very, very motivating.
That's doing work.
It was a paid tournament. That's what it was. It was like a local promotion that wasn't local. He traveled all over the world. Grappler's Quest. Grappler's Fest.
It almost sounds like a video game.
Yeah. And so it was like the pro division or something. We're inviting all of these big names. And I threw my name in the hat as a blue belt. It's like, hey, I just won this. What do you think? Can I be part of that pro thing? And it's like, it paid $1,000 and I got invited. Not that I got invited, but I got accepted or whatever. And I'm like, hey, now I gotta figure out how to get there. But
and as a blue belt, that's still a novice. You would consider a novice.
Yeah, for sure. Blue belt's beginning of the road. White belt, you guys just don't even know how to speak or eat or walk or do anything.
We're still
your belt.
Yeah, right.
Emilio, what are you at?
I'm still a white belt. Okay. I'm still in the blah 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 phase.
He hasn't reached the terrible twos yet.
No. So as a blue belt, it's still considered the beginning. That's what I was pointing at. She's doing this out-of-state competition as a blue belt. You're still starting off. You're still fresh.
And it's like a pro division. It's going against big name black belts and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I've been afforded the opportunity. Let me try it. I lost. It happens.
Sure.
I went.
But how did I get on the selling DVDs, trying to make it happen, just trying to make it happen?
We're talking kind of like timeline to how you got to competing on a worldwide level. So you did the worlds. You're doing this competition.
Sold those DVDs to get there.
Yeah.
Right.
So you lost at this tournament. So what was the next milestone? As of you're going from blue belt to belt. So what was the next milestone after that?
So I'd managed to. I worked really hard. Oh my God, I worked really hard. They added a weight division. I worked really hard, and they added a weight division that was going to allow me to. I'm trying to think. Actually, I wonder how I did in my first worlds. I actually think I lost my first worlds, and then I worked all year long to make it back to win the next one. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked out. I'm pretty sure that first tournament that I convinced my pregnant cousin to drive me to Colorado to, that woman that I lost to there, I think she's the one that beat me in my first Worlds. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure I lost the first Worlds. I have mixed up stories. So many tournaments.
That's okay. Lack of oxygen will do that.
So okay, maybe I'm just curious. But when you fight, you win? If you win and you go to this tournament, especially at Worlds, do you fight again in the same tournament?
So they have...
Oh, absolutely. All day.
That's what a tournament is, right?
It's a tournament.
Yeah.
So it's a tournament. So you have your weight bracket, your skill bracket. So you have your own personal bracket, which is skill and weight.
Okay.
And however many competitors you have there, you have to work your way through the bracket.
Right.
To get to the championships or whatever. And then they have the option of the absolute. And the absolute is just the best of the best. It's at your belt level.
Sure.
Some smaller promotions, their absolutes entail all skills, all weights. Because they're smaller, they don't have enough competitors, so they're just putting...
That's that free-for-all you were talking about. Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
But for the larger tournaments, kind of the IBJJF and promotions like that, an absolute is all weights at your skill level.
Got you.
So then you have a whole other bracket for that as well. And usually you do your division first. Well, it depends. Sometimes they make you do the absolute fights before the division fights. Sometimes you're doing both brackets at the same time. So I'm jumping off the mat here where I just fought a division match to go fight an absolute match over here. Wow. And then I'm back here.
Man, any one of those as a loss would kick you out?
Yep. Single elimination.
That's tough what she's saying. I couldn't even do that. Multiple, I can't do that.
How many? So Ren, how many fights have you had that were like that, like where you went back to back? Is that just constant? That's all of them?
Oh no! What I do is different than that. We just do one fight one day.
But that's okay. So, but you go to tournaments still, though, right?
Oh, I still compete, yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying to be doing two
brackets.
Two brackets simultaneously. That is super gangster because in real life, after you're done with your match, you just competed. You have an adrenaline dump. Mm-hmm. You're way more tired than you thought you ever could be. You might be hyper and have energy, but you have no energy, really. So for them to say, hey, you're up over here in a different bracket, you have to dig deep and find stuff that normally you don't think you
So those are potential there. Depending on the amount of people that are competing, you can fight 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a tournament.
So for a standard bracket of 16, you have to win 4 to win. So that's 4 matches for a 16-man bracket.
And how long are matches?
Depending on your skill level, it determines time. So I think blue belt is like 6
minutes.
6 minutes each match, and then 7, then 8, and then 10, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the progression. So black belts will fight 10-minute matches for the IBJJF. Like I said, every promotion is a different business. So the skills, the rule sets are changing from promotion to promotion. Everybody asks me, what would you advise? I'm thinking about doing a tournament, but I'll give advice. I don't say, hey, you have to do this tournament, you have to do this tournament, you have to do this or that. Yeah, come to me, tell me what your plans are, and I'll offer whatever I have. But the biggest thing I tell people that are interested in competing is know the rule set.
Yeah.
That's
because it changes. It's
right.
Different.
That's the longest 6 minutes of your life, by the way. It could be.
so compared to, and I don't want to go too far off topic with the UFC, but with the UFC, if that's its own division, I realize it creates its own rules essentially because it's its own little world. Do they use like best practice or like King of the Cage? Do they use like a best practice from jiu-jitsu more than anything? Because I realize they're striking, so it adds a whole nother facet to it. But is there like a how should I say? Are they more like Gracie compared to for the rule set? You know what I mean? Because I noticed that the pro matches are 5 minutes for UFC, right?
Yeah,
they're 5 minutes, and then King of the Cage is similar, aren't they? Is 5 minutes or 3 minutes if you're. But I don't know. I would think that. I think
every promotion varies. It's hard to say if there's a standard.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on the athletic commission, right?
I just wonder if one's considered more Spartan-like, right? Like, oh, you went into that tournament, you know? It's rough, you had to wear barbed wire.
That is what Abu Dhabi is.
Right.
So, like, the non-world champions, we look at Abu Dhabi as the mecca of grappling. You have to already be like a world champion.
I didn't know that. Abu Dhabi, for real.
Yeah,
absolutely,
so this is on the timeline.
Professor forgot to tell you that part.
Yeah.
She's getting there.
Yeah.
See, I'm throwing it off.
Yeah. Stop sidetracking.
It's all right.
I enjoy listening to him. It gives me an insight into the non-practitioner's mind, the groupie's mind. Not groupie, but, people have
he could be my groupie. It's okay.
A certain level of knowledge, that's beneficial to me because I've already traveled so far down the path. Sometimes you forget what it's like to be over here with the very, you know, that person that just stumbled into the dojo because they knew what it was or something.
Right.
So I'm enjoying that. But.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're talking timeline. I think you left off at you won the last Worlds, you lost a world, and you won a world.
So how it started was, let's see, first year. In the first year, I did a tournament by myself. Then I went with the team to the tournament in Las Vegas, fought the giant woman that taught me, well, maybe I can do something, gave me a little bit of confidence, and then I did a world championship, which I lost.
That was all within...
I want to say within the first year and a half year.
Okay.
Welcome to Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, no kidding.
Welcome to competing.
And then at that point, I think what had happened, there's another tournament before Worlds, which is called Pan Ams.
That just sounds cool.
That's a super big tournament as well.
Yes, indeed. It's almost like the precursor. It's like, if you want to go to Worlds, go do Pan Am, see how you do to see how much more work you have to do to be ready for Worlds.
And that moves? Or is that in a certain place?
So they came to the U.S. and now it's in the same place every year. I want to say there was one move for the Pan Ams it got so big, it goes to where Worlds is now. So it's the Walter Pyramid in California. So it's the same place every year now. And so I went to the Pan Ams before the Worlds, and I ended up taking double silver. And I was the sulkiest kid on the block. I was like, I don't want to do anything. This sucks. I hate this. And I was crying, man.
And what belt level were you at
I was
this?
still a blue belt.
Still a blue belt.
Yeah, it was the first like real major tournament. And I remember like seeing Master Carlos, and I was like, I don't want to go take a picture with him. I don't want to remember this loss and that. And, oh yeah, it was horrible. You know, I had that in me. You know, it wasn't good enough. I could do more. I could be better. And it was, I think I lost to that chick from the first tournament. You know, in Colorado, and so after that, I went and did Worlds and didn't medal. I lost in the round before the medals rounds. So you get so far in the tournament, eventually you're guaranteed a medal.
Yeah.
Right.
So the match before those rounds, I lost to somebody that I'd beat at Pan Am's.
That's gotta really bother you too.
No, yeah.
like
Lose to someone you've already beaten. Right.
Right.
So that was I want to say that was my first Worlds experience, and I was sulky there too. You know, like I should have won. But I came back for a whole year, and I trained super hard. I did all the extra homework that you need to do. Like, yeah, it's one thing to be on the mats all the time, but I'm still, like, at that point, I was probably about 220, you know, like just doing jiu-jitsu and not doing anything else, making minor adjustments in the diet, but not really. At that point, I was still drinking and smoking. That was kind of my lifestyle back then.
And you're still competing.
To start, you know, I was thinking, I could still do all this stuff. And the quitting of the drinking, the quitting of the smoking was already on the path, you know, because I wasn't spending the nights at the bars anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I was spending the nights at the gym now.
Right.
So I wasn't drinking as much. Now I just go to my friends and play cards and watch the fights and drink on Saturday night, you know. So that was already by nature kind of decreasing. So these were the minor changes that were happening, just passively, just enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I managed to get from like 285 to 220.
And that's within a year or two
year and a half.
That's
And
huge.
that's kind of where I like kind of hung out. And then I lost, and I was like, that's crap. I should have won. I know I can beat that woman. I beat that woman already, you know? So that was the fire. I needed to come back and do the homework and take it outside of the gym, you know, get rid of the smoking and improve the diet and start doing the running. And I remember I'd go and I'd do practice, and then in the middle of the night, I'm running the streets, you know, getting my 2 miles in every night, you know, just trying to I know I can be better at this. What do I have to do to be better at this? Right. And that was kind of it. Went back the next Worlds and managed to win that.
Nice. Now, when you say win, that's for at least. You fought 4 times. You come out with gold. Like, I didn't.
So I don't know about 4 times. I'll be honest. I see the medal right there. It's boxed away.
It's in this stack. One of these stacks of medals over here.
I'm trying to remember how it all played out. I remember they had just made a weight class that I could fit into, so I wasn't fighting the open. It wasn't and above. It was so I had to make weight. That was the first time that I really was. So you have to make weight for your weight division. That was the first time that I really had to focus on making weight.
It's interesting.
So that added a whole other element of showing up to a tournament and not eating and.
Did you feel like it was sucking you down to do that drop in weight for that?
Well, I was already close enough, but a little bit.
Very good question.
A little bit, and then the way they do it is you have IBJJF for those Worlds tournaments. You have to weigh in the day of. There is no I'm going to dehydrate myself and kill myself, weigh in the day before, and then rehydrate and get primed to fight the next night.
So whatever you are,
you get out there and you go fight. Yeah. So if you're gonna kill yourself, dehydrate yourself, and be weak, that's how you're gonna have to fight.
Yeah,
because that's like a big thing with the UFC, right? Now is the fact that they don't have enough weight classes. Is that the issue?
That's the approach. As some people are saying, there's not enough weight classes.
So people have to do some drastic health stuff. Is that big in jiu-jitsu still? Like, is that still like at your guys' level? Not the striking stuff, but do people do that? Try to cut weight for classes and all that?
I think some people still do it. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of prep work that goes into it for the more serious competitors. You know, it's not like they actually make the healthy choices to live within a healthy range, and then they're dropping a few pounds the day of.
Right.
So yeah, it still exists. It still happens, but not to the extremes of like wrestling or MMA where you're like cutting 10 pounds the night before or something like that.
MMA now has you have to weigh in the day before, at least the UFC, weigh in the day before the fight because of that, you know.
Right. So it gives them time to do that.
To rehydrate.
That's insane.
To avoid like
the day, but I apologize.
The day of.
Yeah, no. The day before.
Right.
That's weird.
Huh.
Crazy.
It is. So now that you're training, you got that fire. So for sake of not to take away from your story, but let's fast forward a little bit. So you're going up in belts. You're winning tournaments. You're doing tournaments, and you're almost to your black belt. Okay. So how does that feeling feel when you're going up the ranks and you're getting there and you're accomplishing things and you're on that track? You're on the track that you wanted to be on, and you can see yourself.
Multiple world titles.
Multiple world titles. And like I said, I didn't want to take away from your story, but I want to get to that level of, okay, you are at the cusp of being a black belt, and you know that you're legitimately going to do this for the rest of your life. But how does that feeling feel when you're on that track and you're almost there?
So, on the track, on the path. So, fast forward the story. We already know that Tammy's awesome at tournaments.
Multiple
medals.
Yeah, stacks.
Just to cover, Morgan had asked about what was like the next point, the kind of the next turning phase. Being a purple belt, you know, getting out to California and getting to train with the team at the headquarters. And now I'm on the mats with multiple black belts, not just my black belts who smash me every day, you know, and we have a certain rapport and a certain way that we train together and stuff. But now I'm out there and I'm hanging with the black belts. I'm threatening the black belts. I'm doing something with my game against the black belts, you know. So that was kind of the next jump for me.
Right.
Where I actually incorporated a different style of fighting into my tournament style. After that, it gave me the confidence to put myself at a disadvantage and fight from there, because I knew that was kind of what my game was molded into. Like, I was getting smashed every day. My game was defend, get on top, win.
Yeah.
Right? Right? So I was trying to go into tournaments fighting against my style. I was fighting attack. That's not my style.
Yeah.
You know, so at the purple belt level, I kind of realized what my game was, you know, is like figuring out how to be defensive offensively.
Right.
And then so that was the next jump. And then I never really cared about belts to start. I knew it was about the learning. Like, for instance, my blue belt level, I got 2 stripes at once, and then I didn't even get my last 2 or something like that. You know, I didn't care about all of that stuff. And as I started progressing, I still didn't care. But then you start getting to the top of the line, you know, we all line up in order of rank. You start at the end of the line, you know, you get whatever's left over by the time everybody else has gotten their privileges or whatever, and you work your way up. So now I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to make it into the top half, and now I'm like, man, I work my ass off. I work way harder than the rest of, you know, I don't know. When you tell yourself whatever you have to tell yourself to keep yourself motivated and working and going, you know.
Right.
But I'm working at the gym. I'm teaching classes now because I know this is what I want to do. So I need to have that skill set. Plus, I'm getting to the point where I'm trying to think lifestyle. By then, I was probably not working, you know, so I had more time just focus on jiu-jitsu, and I'm getting to that brown belt level now. And now I'm like, well, now you're measuring yourself against the team. You are the team, you know. All the brown belts are like chomping at the bit. All the purples, the purples and the top purples and the browns, you know, that line is so small. You think about black belt being the end of the line. I equate it to black belt being adolescence. You're working your way through life. You were born, your childhood, you know, you're going through your teens. Now you've graduated high school. Now go live your life. Go figure out what you're going to do with that thing.
Open school, Boston Farms.
Yeah.
Right? So it's such a short period that the late purple and brown, it all kind of melts together, you know? So I'm getting to the level where I'm like, I'm a purple belt. I'm gonna go take that brown belt out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go jump the line. I'm gonna show that I'm better than this person. I'm gonna win against that person every single time we go, and I'm not gonna submit to these people, and I'm gonna fight for I wanted, you know. I don't know, whatever it is. We're in the fighting industry.
Yeah.
It's competition.
It's competitive, yeah.
We want to learn how to be good and get better, and these are the competitors, you know, and so I'm working my way to, in my mind, you know, who knows what reality's like. In my mind,
doesn't matter though.
I'm working my way up, and I'm trying to push where I am in that line. I don't care about the promotions. I want to have the skill set to be like, I don't care if he's up there. I look down that line, and you can look down because you know I can beat you.
Right.
You know? I need to know that, you know, and I knew that if I was going to be a jiu-jitsu school owner, I had to be good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to work doing what I have to do to make this my reality. And then about brown belt, you know, brown belt was probably purple and brown are the shortest. I can't remember how much time I spent at each, but I feel like brown belt took the longest. Like I legitimately stayed at my 4th stripe on my brown belt longer than I had my other stripes. So you get 4 stripes on your belt. And once you get your 4 stripes, then you get your new belt. So I stayed at my last stripe as long as it took me to get my first 3.
Wow.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then just for people that don't know, explain how you guys get belts. It's not like because I was in Taekwondo for a few years, and we had to do an actual like a form, and then you had to like do something, which I always thought was a little overblown. I don't think it was as much of a measure of skill, because the skill is ultimately fighting. So I never understood that about Taekwondo. But I think we talked about this because my kiddos have gone to your school, and you were telling me that the way you promote is basically over a observation that you guys make, and just see the skill and how many times you're able to choke people out. You know?
Yeah, it's
That's 17. There's another strap. Like
Coming up on promotion.
Yeah.
You almost got it.
My interpretation is your attendance is definitely one of the things, because you got to be persistent. You got to show that you're showing up for class, and then it's gonna be your coaches and the professor saying, okay, he's learning the techniques, he's making steps to improve. He's asking questions. I mean, I ask a lot of questions, like, hey, like I was just making jokes earlier, Coach Matt, hey, was that my gi that you're choking me with, or was that your gi? Because I had no idea. All I know, I was like, you know.
So you're a white belt?
I'm still a white belt.
And then how many stripes have you gotten now?
I have 3.
And how long has it taken you?
So I've been doing this for a year in November.
A year in November to do 3 stripes. Is that fast?
I think.
Don't help his ego.
So, as you mentioned, it is very subjective. I think that as far as promotions go in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's no standard. It's very dependent upon who the instructor is, who the professor is, what they learn growing up who they are as people.
Sure.
I know that within our team, there's a standard set minimum. Attendance and time. You have to at least make these many classes before you're even eligible.
Sure.
Right? So if you're not coming and you haven't spent enough time in the training, you're not going to have the skill set needed to move up. But then it's professor's approval. So as far as the minimum goes, the minimum being 2 times a week, and you have to have a month minimum for your first promotion. Then a next month is another promotion, and then 2 months down the line, so that's 4. And then, so 4 months to get 3 stripes is the minimum.
Okay. So then how long did it take you to get to black belt? Like if you measured it in years, was it 10 years?
6.
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
6 years. So that, to me, that's even fast, right? Like that's...
Not just to you, to the rest of the planet.
I want to say that I got my belt at the minimum.
At the minimum. Okay. So you were impressing upon somebody enough to be able to say that you'd absolutely earned this.
There was no holding me back.
That's good. That's
She's like the 2% of the 2%
Okay.
Right. So do you want to walk us? Do you want to walk us through that?
Walk around telling your accomplishment.
Hype man. Yeah.
She just said.
Yeah. You want to walk us through that moment of getting your black belt and how that all went down?
Absolutely.
I don't remember.
Because I read the Google story, but you
Tell
can't.
me the Google story, and then I'll give you the details.
According to Google, it said that you are doing a tournament, and I think you won in your respective bracket, and the professor just surprised you with your black belt and promoted you at the tournament.
What?
Is that kind of how it went down, or?
Now I remember.
I mean,
You know Google.
So awesome. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
No, I kind of understand. It's like I said, I spent a long time at that brown belt 4-stripe level. I remember the people talk about plateaus, and I was there at that brown belt level for a little bit, and it was a little bit of struggle for me. I don't know what it was, maybe the stress of I'm going to be a black belt soon. Why aren't I a black belt? What's happening? Am I missing something? What's going on? I don't know. I honestly don't remember what it is, but I remember going to a camp, a jiu-jitsu camp. It was an all-women's camp out in Toronto, and it was just a different, the people that were there, it was like a fresh black belt, just gotten her black belt. It was a person that had been a black belt for a handful of years, and then it was somebody that had been black belt 15, 20 years. Maybe not 15, 20, but for a very long time, And so just being able to speak with those people that had walked the path before me and seeing the different levels along the way was very beneficial for me, kind of settled me, eased me a little bit, because I was feeling kind of struggling at that brown belt level. I think it was just self-imposed expectations that was stressing me out.
I should be there already.
Overthinking, stressing yourself out.
And I kind of already knew, I'm not there yet. Calm down.
Yeah.
But what do I need to be doing? There's no job. There's no skill set. There's no job description.
Right.
It's just
How'd you get black belt?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that subjectiveness of it and everything. And as far as the way I handle things as a professor, it's what do you come in the doors with on day one? What are you trying to accomplish?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the measure. If you're just having fun, well, then we're just going to go along the line, and you'll probably get your belts at, you come twice a week, every week, and you hit all your minimums, and you're going to get your belts. Why? Because there's no other desired expectations. You don't want to be all this other stuff. You came in and you accomplished what you wanted to do.
Right.
If somebody comes and tells me they want to be a fighter, a competitor, you're going to have to work hard to be a good competitor.
To get paid for it. That's right.
Yeah.
You want this to be your job?
And so you're going to have different expectations. You're going to have do your words match your actions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the measure.
So it was a surprise though when he brought it out. You still didn't feel like you were there when he brought it out?
No, I for sure. I was already at that point. I'm like, I'll get it one day. I know I'm ready, and it'll come.
She had needed it for like 6 years. I don't know if you guys.
I was at the head of the line, for a while, and I knew that was my spot, and
she knew that was her belt.
Yeah.
And so what had happened was.
What had happened?
it happened at a tournament. It happened at a tournament. So I'm gonna get back to talking about tournaments here. The women's divisions, there's not as many competitors as there are men's divisions. So even at the larger tournaments, I want to say it was Pan Am's, because I believe that's when the team gets together and you'll get black belt promotions at headquarters, because you can't give a black belt until you're a second degree black belt. So
you can't be the one to give to you.
Right. So for instance, I come in and I just got my black belt. Tomorrow I can't give somebody a black belt.
Sure.
I have to at least be a black belt for 6 years. That's the minimum. So even as black belt, you still have time minimums.
Wow.
Right? 3 years for your first degree, 3 more years for your next degree. Those are the minimums. So you have to be a black belt for 6 years before you can give a black belt. These are our team's requirements. Like I said, subjective stuff. Who knows what the other teams do as far as their standards. But with that being said, my professor was still just a 1 degree black belt. But Pan Am's, everybody goes to headquarters, and for instance, I have somebody that came to me as a brown belt that trains in Los Lunas when I moved down here. Well, I can't hold him back and not give him his black belt if he's ready, just because I can't give it. So I evaluate this brown belt, and I think he's ready for a black belt. I think he has what it takes. Well, let's take you in front of Master Carlos, and let's see if Master Carlos thinks you have what it takes.
Yeah, and what a test.
Sure. Who's Master Carlos?
He's like the Godfather.
He's like Splinter?
He's like Splinter.
Yeah.
Sure. Michael Jordan.
He's like the son of the guy that's the beginning of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu kind of thing.
Sure. Jedi Master.
Yeah.
You're good at hockey, go play Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
So during Pan Am's is usually when they do like black belt promotions back then. So with that being said, I know it was the Pan Am's that I got my black belt at, because that year, so here's how it works out. Women's division's not as many people, so they still lump some skill levels together. So when I started, it was like blue and purple spot together, browns and blacks fight together. So you fight at the higher skill level. If you're a blue belt, you're fighting at the purple belt level. If you're a brown belt, you're fighting at the black belt level.
Sure.
And I've always been the one that I want to test myself. I want to see what I'm about, you know?
Yeah.
If I can kill you, if I'm not struggling with you, that was a waste of time for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, as far as tournaments go, competition goes. So middle of the road purple belt or something like that, they eventually divide the blue and purple belt divisions. Or no, it was for that Worlds, I think. The second Worlds where I actually won. I won just fighting the blue belts. So I had my own division there. But browns and blacks still fought together.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty much the entirety of my jiu-jitsu career. Lower belt level was browns and blacks fought together. So when I made it to brown belt, I was super pumped, because in all these local tournaments, I was already fighting black belts.
Yeah.
Because we just all fight together in smaller tournaments, you know? So I knew as a purple belt, I should be in that division. I can beat that woman. I can beat that one. I can beat that one. Why aren't I fighting, you know, I want the prestige of that? Because, yeah, it's cool to win a world championship, a world title, but it's like the black belt level is the most prestigious, you know? That's the highest level. And so I get to the brown belt level. I'm already struggling, like thinking, I don't know what to do. I'm just here and whatever. And in that year, they're getting ready to divide the brown and black belt division.
Ooh.
I've already won titles in the brown and black belt division as a brown belt. And now they're going to say, okay, you brown belts just fight each other and you black belts just fight each other.
Wow.
I'm like, damn it.
Right.
So this is the first tournament. They've just taken me out of the black belt division. This is the first tournament where it's just the brown belts. And so I kind of have like not a routine. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works out, but I think you just got to get me mad enough for me to hit that 6th gear.
Yeah.
But I have a tendency to lose the finals in my weight division and come back and win the absolute.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So,
I suppose is better than the opposite way around.
It's happened other ways, but yeah. So for that tournament, Oh, Pan Ams. Let me see. Hold on. This is how I remember things. I'm gonna walk out to the metal case.
Okay.
And I'm gonna remember the metal.
That's what you've had a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, imagine. This is the middle. That's
exactly what she's having to do.
That's good. That's perfect. That's perfect.
2012 Pan Ams.
Okay.
And I did. I took second in my weight category. And then I remember thinking, man, here I am crying about them dividing the divisions, and I'm not going to fight the black belts anymore. I can't even beat the brown belts. What am I crying for?
Right.
You know? And so I came back with a mission in the absolute division, like, no, this is my division. I am the best brown belt. Yes. Yes. So I managed, I'll be honest, I don't even remember the matches. I don't even remember who I fought.
But you won.
But I won. I have a medal. Some matches make an impression on you, some don't. And
you saw red.
and I.
No, she saw black.
Ooh.
Nice.
And so it comes podium time, you know. I managed to pull out the absolute. I want to say it was like a battle or something. It felt like an accomplishment. It was the first. I won the first absolute division of the first brown belt Pan Am's division kind of thing.
The high-end brown belt.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was the #1 brown belt at that tournament, you know, first ever. So I go and I get my medal, and bam, here comes Professor, whoops out the black belt. He didn't even have, I want to say I have one of his friends' black belts. It wasn't like he came prepared to do this.
So he must have done well enough in the absolute to like blow his mind. He's like, all right, okay, Bob, give me your belt. Come on, I'll give you another one. Just to see.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'd been at that brown belt 4th stripe for a while, and what I think was the other contributing factor was that was the tournament where my Professor Tusa, went and got his 2nd degree.
Wow.
So he was finally official to be able to hand out belts. And
that just worked out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had come to the school and I had put in 6 years of work, you know?
Yeah.
And so he got his 6 years of being a black belt at that academy at the time that I got in my 6 years of studying jiu-jitsu. And so, yeah, like I said, I think I got his friend's belt. He's like, hey, give me your belt. He hands it over to me kind of thing. I don't know. I didn't see any of that. I was just on the podium, and then he comes up with the belt and ties it on me. And it's always overwhelming, you know, emotionally speaking. I don't have a lot of skills handling a wide range of emotions. I can usually keep it within a certain level, you know.
We just came off a red hot, and it's like,
no! Yeah, it was all tears, man. I think I have a nickname. It was all tears. Yeah. I get pretty emotional. So for sure, it was exactly... It was
you see it right now.
just about perfect.
Yeah.
Right? I'm the competitor. Where do I want it? You know, on the podium in front of, you know, #1 spot. This is where I'm supposed to get it. It's the emotion comes from. The only way it could have been better was my grandmother raised me, and so she's like my mother, as if it could have happened in front of her. Sure. That was the only thing that was different. But she never traveled. She never saw any of my tournaments or anything like that. But amazing, you know, like I said, as perfect as it could be.
That's huge. You had that tunnel vision all the way to the end. I can imagine like hitting that at the end. It's like,
you think there was like almost a feeling of relief, like no more stressing that I've made it. Like, yeah, I've made it. This is what I was born to do.
The celebration. It wasn't until like maybe a year or two into this project that I start recognizing that it wasn't stress. All of that was self-imposed, man. Right.
I think that's what got you to press that gas like that, though. Mm-hmm. That's fast, 6 years.
Well, I think your story is very motivating. And when I read it in Google, it definitely doesn't do the trick. Hearing it in person is a lot better.
I'm sure I have more stories too. I've just probably already forgotten them.
And we can definitely do this again if you guys want. And that way we can try to tie in more of the big ones, because that's really the beginning. And then that was your beginning of the black belt professional career. Do you say professional at that point, or are they all professional? I don't know what would be the difference, because you're...
Yeah, I mean, when you categorize the word professional, what do you think? You think paycheck.
Yeah, right. And that kind of comes from private entities rather than like these organizations where you're paying to get into the tournaments. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah.
Most of the time, sure.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I did accounts, just because I had a project I had to work on, and I have like over 100 medals. That's not counting losses. And then I started doing the math about the bank account and how much that cost me. And it has definitely been a 5-figure investment, to make this happen.
That's heavy.
But the monetary investment's a lot different than the blood, sweat, tears, sacrifices.
Like I said, I always looked at it like an investment into my future career, my future path, the thing that was going to sustain my livelihood for the rest of my life. If I open a school and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I'm not going to have to answer to anybody, and I'm going to be able to do what I love. It's just like my college degree.
That's huge.
So this is my master's program right now.
It's big time.
Right.
Yeah. So switching gears, how did you get into the fighting game?
Kind of similar to Tammy.
Yeah.
I had heard some people talking about it. I was going to college. It was like a break in between classes or whatever, and I went to a Hooters to go have lunch. There was a jiu-jitsu school and a UFC, 1 or through 5 had been up. It's like her, I wanted to try it out, so I went in and I tried it out. I took a class that night.
Oh wow!
And I had my first fight a couple weeks later.
And what have you gotten to now? I don't know. Are you a black belt?
No, I'm still a purple belt.
Purple belt. Okay.
It's all right. I love jiu-jitsu. It's much like Professor. It saved my life as well. So, jiu-jitsu for everyone.
Yeah. So I know it's a hard comparison, but when you compare MMA to jiu-jitsu, they kind of go hand in hand. But what do you feel about the comparison? What do you think is different between the both?
I have more control. I say control with quotation marks over the jiu-jitsu matches. The MMA matches, I have no idea what's going on at the time. It passes, even though one MMA match is possible 15 to 25 minutes.
Right.
It goes in a blink. It's gone in a blink, and you don't remember anything.
Yeah.
But the jiu-jitsu matches, I don't know. It's not that you remember it all, but you remember a little bit more, I think that the level of adrenaline, I think that it's like money. You can have a whole lot of money, or you can have a whole lot of money, right? There's always more.
Right.
Sure.
So you have these adrenaline rushes in the jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Do you feel better knocking somebody out?
Absolutely.
Or do you so choking somebody out doesn't do it for you as much as knocking somebody out?
I think that's a primal thing.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. It is. It's a man thing. Sorry, Jimmy. Right? The chicks, the females, they're like, I choked them out. Yeah, I'm more than the men. Right.
Yeah. It's nice to have that impact, especially when you straight just shut the lights off.
That's it.
That's
you didn't tap. You didn't know I can't breathe. You went unconscious.
Yeah, immediately.
Help getting up.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Have a choice.
Right. So I don't know if this has been a jiu-jitsu thing or if it's just because when I got into UFC or fighting or anything, my parents were divorced. So on the weekends, my dad would go to the Blockbuster or to whatever, and we'd go rent the UFCs. We'd go rent that stuff, and you'd see the little firefighter from Illinois or whatever fight the big sumo with shoes on. And, a lot of times my dad, he had a little fighting background himself, but he'd be like, oh, okay, this wrestler, he's going to get wrecked because this kickboxer's going to knee him in the face.
Yeah.
And sometimes it happens, sometimes not. So that kind of what got me into the fighting game, and I've done kickboxing and all that kind of stuff in the beginning. But now, as I've grown up, I don't know if it's just a natural response, but when somebody walks in the room or if I'm around somebody, I'm like sizing them up. Okay, so if this guy gets me,
what can I do?
Yeah, I'm going to take him. I mean, it's just a natural thing, though, for me.
It is I think maybe not so much a man thing. I think that.
No, I do it too.
I think it's a fighter's perspective. It really is.
Gorilla thing. It's a gorilla thing. It's like instead of looking at hey, cool, there's another person. It's like assessing a possible threat.
Well, every time I have some drinks and he's over at my house now, I try to test him out. I got this. Since he's gotten in, I haven't won. So.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out very well for you.
No. But imagine how much tougher you are because of all those attempts.
Right. I got a friend that's in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
you're not messing with me.
No, but that's legit. If someone says I'll take someone who has a friend who does jiu-jitsu over someone who has know what jiu-jitsu is. Any street fighter ever of all time. All day.
All day.
Yes.
That's a fact. It's a fact.
That was
time.
always fun to hear.
After
Yeah.
like a month of jiu-jitsu, you no longer feel going to jail. You're like, whatever, I'm going to jail.
Right?
Sure. I beat him though.
Yeah.
You want a better place to like show the world what jiu-jitsu is.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Tell the story of the guys in the South. No. But I choked him out. You're not understanding.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm in here. I had fun. It was. I'm gonna tell Coach all about it. Different perspective, maybe.
Yeah, certainly. So now that we're, you guys are both, participating in the academy, and you guys are both kind of at this mentor, spot. What do you see different amongst people? Like, do you think that, some people just have it, some people don't? I mean, I think the saying goes, hard work beats talent sometimes. It just depends, especially with MMA. I mean, like you said, you just don't know what's going to happen. But I think some people come in with the mindset, like, I'm going to do this kind of thing, and they're really motivated for like the first couple months. I mean, Professor had this talk with me when I first started, and I don't think she was trying to... I think it's more of a challenge.
I think you got the backlash from somebody that came in right before you.
And that's fine. I mean, I totally get it, but I think it was more of a challenge because she's like, there's 6 people here. After the first couple months, there's going to be 4. After about a year, there's maybe 1.
Yeah.
And, it makes me feel good. Like, I've been here for a year. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going deeper, if anything, So, I mean, do you feel like some people just have that mindset that they're not going to stop or they're not going to quit, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think you got 2 different perspectives. I think that, Professor has the jiu-jitsu perspective, which is like 99% of y'all quit. Because most men don't like being choked and submitted, especially from a chick. I think my sport is kind of similar, except, everybody thinks they're a tough guy and it's time to be a tough guy.
Right.
And then they lose once and they're like, oh my God, I lost a fight. And 2 or 3 times and they break.
Too much shot to the ego.
Man, no, yeah. Your ego is not your amigo.
Sure. Right.
I feel like if you're stubborn, maybe you can last longer in MMA than jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
I definitely have been focusing more on the children's programs, just because as I work in this industry more and more, I think it's just how you're developed, how you are grown, and some people have that grit, have that desire to be stubborn about them, and that I think is more important.
Yes, they do, Professor.
You feel like you can impact somebody who's younger a little bit easier.
So much harder
because you're not trying to
touch
break
somebody. Yeah, when they're already developed, they already have their mindset, they already have their beliefs. Yeah,
It's half full.
And I'm not gonna lie. When I first started, it was kind of like a hit and miss. Like, I liked it, and then it's like, oh man, I'm getting off of work. I'm off late, and I gotta go train. And I'm tired, and then like
Eventually, it's worth it.
yeah, and then you just like there's a switch that like I'm getting better, and I choked somebody, and it just something just snapped. It was just like,
That's where I want to be. Why would I go home?
yeah.
So you
My
gotta.
wife and children and family and house and life and job and all that stuff.
But I could be choking people out.
Yeah.
Choke some people out.
Yeah, but I mean, most days when I don't feel like going and I show up, I feel so much better.
Absolutely.
So much better.
he tells me that
He
all
loves
the time.
Emilio.
Rand tells
And
me
the
that
days
all
I
the time.
don't go, it feels like, when you miss school and school's happening when you're not there. And you're like,
Yeah.
you're at home and you're like, nah, I'm gonna have homework. The teacher's gonna be like, so, Emilio,
How are you?
yeah. So you have a fever, do you? And then, but that feeling, like, I don't like that feeling. I'd rather just
one workout
come.
away from having a great day.
That's right. I'd rather just come and put the work in, put the sweat in, and I feel so much better.
So where do we
afterwards.
find the class to be able to come and? Where do we find you guys? Facebook.com.
Nice.
Transition, man.
Yeah.
Facebook.com / what is it?
It's
New
the-
Mexico BJJ.
New Mexico BJJ.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not NM. It's spelled out New Mexico.
It's spelled out New Mexico BJJ.
Okay.
Obviously, if these people are listening to your podcast, if they get in touch with you guys can
Right.
refer them to us as
Definitely.
well. But we're here, man.
Well, we're going to be putting links to your guys' anything that we have on you guys. We'll pass it that direction. Mostly going to be Facebook is the focal point, but maybe we can do a YouTube situation too, where we can get some video of you guys.
YouTube,
I'm
Instagram.
joking.
Yeah.
You guys have a YouTube channel?
unofficial.
Yes.
So here's the thing. Now that I have you guys here, let's talk some business if you guys are interested.
Yeah, definitely. I'm ready.
So I was literally telling somebody like 2 days ago, we need just like a cameraman or whatever. So I have been not incognito, but I've just kind of been living my life here, doing what I need to do, kind of getting the team ready, letting them understand this is the system, this is how it works. Let's be professional. This is the organization I want to have. I don't want a bunch of bums. I want people that are professional, people that people can rely on, because that's what I had.
Right.
That consistency and just living. But now that we make the move, then it's like, bam, we're here. Look at what we got. Look at who we are.
Right.
The whole we need to build all this content and then release it versus the whole we need to be building content. So yeah, I've been keeping track and keeping personal content on a personal level, but for the school level, haven't really been doing a lot of that. Do a little bit of it, but not a lot. Wanting to be a little bit more professional on that level, you know? So the next level is getting video of classes, getting that social marketing out there, you know, on a more professional level than me just shooting a little bit of a snippet of video here or whatever.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, that's glad to hear the stories and really being a part of the school. It's cool to hear kind of the background and where it started. And I think a lot of people would appreciate it more if they've known some of these stories. And hopefully that's our goal here. So thank you guys again for taking time out of your day and doing this for us.
I love Emilio.
Same here, Coach.
We all love you, bro.
I don't know. Be careful. You might lose him.
Thank you for being Tammy.
So just for sake of saying, so do you guys know his nickname? Has he ever told you that?
Oh, no, we do not. Please tell us.
Where's it at? Which one is it? So he's going to tell you. And it always has been. It's Fox. That's what he always goes by. I'm just surprised you wasn't calling
know that.
No, he's sneaky. I know you.
That's fine.
That's why.
We love Emilio. Oh, that was such a nice t-shirt.
That's good stuff.